Okay, talking about this week's lesson and assignment, I wanted to get in close to these paintings a little bit, so I apologize if I'm a little shaky here, but so a couple of weeks ago, we looked at creating volume through value progression. So this bottom painting here is the one that we did, where we had our 7-step scale, and we were creating the volume, and we did that by just creating a value progression that went from light to dark. So as we faced that light, whatever's closer to light was lighter, and then it got progressively darker, and the opposite was true. Or in the shadow, it was the reflected light that made things lighter and then darker as we moved away from that source of reflected light. Right. So what we're going to do this week, now that we have some experience in mixing the color that we see through doing those poster studies, we're going to take that idea and combine it with this one and try to create a value progression, but this time in color. So we're going to be using color shapes, not just value, but also now hue, chroma, and temperature to create volume, or a value progression that gives the impression of volume. Right. So I have two paintings of an apple up here, and this is under a warm light, obviously. And I did this one just to emphasize the point that when you start this week's assignment, we need to start the way we started with the poster study, with maybe just a little bit more drawing, but that's the only difference. So you've got to start very flatly and allow yourself simplicity at the beginning, so that you can easily adjust these averages until you feel like you have a good representation of all those color relationships that you see. You're also going to add a white object. So here I had a white cloth underneath this object. So white is sometimes a challenge because people think white and they don't think color. And under a warm light, that white cloth has to feel warm. So I've got both yellow and red into it. Okay, so we're going to start here. We're going to create these color averages, and then we're going to build value and color progressions on top of that. So that's what I've done over here. So this is my poster study average that's over here. And all I've done to create that value progression is I've gone lighter to one side and darker to the other. So I got light to darker, right? And then the shadow I've got, or the reflected light coming back up this way, I've got lighter to darker this way, right? Lighter to darker here, lighter to darker here, lighter to darker there, right? So in addition to that, there's also an important temperature change. Whatever the facing the light is not only going to be lighter, it's going to be warmer as well under a warm light. So this goes lighter. This is lighter than this, but it's also warmer. So it's going to warm to a little bit cooler to a little bit cooler, right? There's also often, not always, but often a chromatic change. So here I'm going a little bit higher chroma, a little bit lower still, okay? And that sort of works out. It depends on the color of the object. It depends on the color of the light source if you get that kind of a chroma change as well. Sometimes this can actually have less chroma, and there can be more chroma in this middle area. You just have to look and see. But the value is the one that you've got to really hold on to. If you miss the value progression, then the object is going to be flat. It's not going to turn. But we also want to build this consistency in terms of temperature, right? Warm to cooler to cooler. So if I go warm here, cooler here, and then if I go warmer again here, it's not going to look right. It's going to look, it's going to look false. So we've got to really try to begin this process with an overall idea of both how we want the color to change in terms of value and in terms of color. I won't say forget about what you see. It's important to look, obviously, but you don't want to just willy-nilly copy the color shapes that you see. You have to form some kind of overall idea about that progression at the beginning to keep you from making silly mistakes. And how do I get those colors? Well, there's lots of simple ways to do it, or there's a simple way to do it. You can start off with this average, and you can just take your average, this color, and you can just add a little bit of blue and get this color, and you can add a fair amount more of yellow and get this color, right? So I can start with my average, and I can adjust the average, lighter and warmer or darker and cooler. That's a beginning place. The color that you end up may not always exactly correspond to what you see, and you may have to adjust it later. But at least that gets you on the right track in terms of creating the correct kind of value progression that also is consistent in terms of its coloration and how it's changing its coloration. Okay, so done the same thing. The backgrounds, warmer, cooler. This looks in this light very light, but this has actually got a lot of yellow into it. So lighter, this gets actually a little bit cooler. Where the shadow is under this, it's a little bit cooler, and then as it moves away from this object, a little bit more ambient light gets in and warms that a little bit. Okay. So keep it very simple, just just a few simple value progressions that have this correct color change happening in it, and that will suffice. Again, free mixing. We're not creating a scale here. You're just you're going with your eye, and again, the main thing to keep in mind at the beginning is to start simple. Start with just this simple poster. Again, maybe just a little bit more drawing at the beginning than you did with the poster study, because now we're making a painting instead of just a poster study. But otherwise, same idea. Looking for those simple color averages.